loyalty to the country that colonized them. We also find that sentiment, that phenomenon. But I think the bulk of it, I suppose, is Professor Fayemi. And suddenly he says, no, I don't want you to own me anymore. And take the last example I give you, without again naming names. An African president addresses the nation, goes on radio and television, it's an address to the nation. And he says, literally, in African, I am French first, and this country next. I'm talking about these other people who keep us apart, who are African. But I'm saying your biggest force are the ones who used to own us. To study this phenomena, talk about them, educate us as young people so that we don't repeat this. Professor Fayemi says that this independence we talk about as African countries, it must have content. It must have substance. It's independence of thought, even identity. He said, are you Africans, and are you proudly African? And we said, yes, we are. That is very, very critical to achieving this objective, that we ceased to be owned by other people. And we ourselves act and behave in a manner that says we own ourselves and will determine our destiny, as the principal was saying. Thanks.
Well, Mr. President has encapsulated all those questions, and I'm afraid time is not very much on our side. I understand we still have an engagement before we leave, Ms. Principal, so we may not be able to take more than one question. This is going to be the lucky person. Oh, yes, I'll take you. No. Okay, I'll make you two because I can see you are persistent. No, I'm talking about the lady. Yes, you. Oh, sorry. I thought you were a lady.
You too. No, it's okay.
Yeah?
We'll take one, and we take this one too.
Okay, I'll take you, yes. So I'll take both of you. You will have the last.
Good morning. My name's Logan, and I'm from Milnerton High School. My question is, what role should young Africans play in shaping the continent's future, as well as the newer opportunities that the current generation has that previous generations didn't?
We've been able to achieve as a country? If not, why, and what advice do you have? And the second question is, what advice, looking at the current state of South Africa, do you have for fellow South Africans, how they can actually go about addressing the injustice and the social differences within the country while still accommodating foreign nationals and maintaining that ideal of like a united Africa and as one? Thank you.
Okay. Fantastic question. Let me attempt to answer Logan's question so that Mr. President can have the last word in responding to yours. What advantages do you have now that we didn't have, or that the President's generation didn't have, in trying to promote the goal of African unity? Well, obviously, one that I can immediately see is that you have technology. When we were growing up, I mean, you communicate now in milliseconds about what you feel, and you can connect with your contemporaries in other parts of Africa and the rest of the world. I mean, but that doesn't necessarily often translate into substance and content. Maybe this is where you need to then stand back and reflect on your environment and the information you're able to gather in milliseconds. Everything that the President and I are saying to you now, you can go to ChatGPT. And I'm sure you do that. You don't, Logan. You don't go to ChatGPT. Oh, you must be a unique... You must be a unique young man. Well, you know, I don't mean ChatGPT negatively or in the sense of plagiarizing what is there for your school essay or anything of that nature. I use it to check information. And I encourage you all to do so. Whether it's Claude or ChatGPT or whatever, Gemini, whatever AI tools that are available to you. That's one advantage you have. But this could also lead to information overload, which could then become a disadvantage if it is not sifted, if it is not weighed against other experiences. And that's where it's important that education plays its role. And geography is also part of education. Travel is education. Because what I tend to discover amongst many of our young people is that we don't know enough of our own history. The way we know what happened in World War II, the role Winston Churchill played. You probably may not know what the Infekane or Uthman Dan Fodio was in the Islamic but sometimes it's the European slavery we know. We don't even know that there are other forms. How we have this community in places like Zanzibar, in East Africa, who are products of the Arab slavery. So I think it's important that we must know our own history. And if the curriculum does not do enough of it, there must be an agitation for the curriculum to reflect a lot more of content about African history, African society, against ourselves. Too, as young Africans, and then you have other sources. You have entertainment, you have music. They can play a significant role in this. There used to be Pan-African festivals of arts and culture. When the president was in Nigeria, there was FESTA, Festival of Arts and Culture in Africa. We still have FESPACO, I think it's in Burkina Faso regularly. I don't know why it happens now that we've had a military intervention there. That really goes deep into the past, into the role of culture in development, so that we're not disconnected from our own roots and just embrace things from external environment that do not necessarily advance the the progress and development that we're looking for in our own environment. So I think culture that can tie our communities and constituencies a lot more together. And I think young people are audacious. That's the advantage of youth. Audacity, courage, boldness, determination. These are values that are so important in the quest for this Pan-African unity that we're talking about. And as the president has said, this is not a new thing. It's come way back from our history, 19th century. So it's not a new agenda that is being placed on the table, but it has greater resonance now because as individual countries, our chances of accelerated development is limited. But as a collective, we have a greater opportunity not to end up on the menu, but to be co-rule makers in the new world that is emerging, rather than rule takers. Because in the old world that is just fraying, literally only the UN Charter was developing. Ethiopia, as the president said, and Liberia. And then outside of continental Africa, in global Africa, Haiti was the only other country that joined in that post-1945 agenda. So you could say we were not even at the table. We were on the menu. As the world is changing before our very eyes, that duty does not belong to President Mbeki's generation again. To ensure that Africa does not remain on the menu, but on the table, designing, co-designing that agenda. The last word to the president. Yes. I think how do we ensure that the current xenophobia is tackled, but also the economic challenges leading to it, in some cases, are dealt with?
Thanks. I'm told that we need to be short because you people need to go back to class. I see the protests. 1994 came. And all of us South Africans, for the first time, we got to very successful political change takes place. And for the first time, South Africa is owned by all of us. And having done that, we then say, what's our next task? We've achieved this first change, very, very important. But it empowers us to do something about our country. What is this thing that we must do? To summarize it, major strategic task is to eradicate the legacy of colonialism and apartheid. You remember the period I'm talking about, colonialism and apartheid, is about 350 years. About. What was established as a South African legacy during 350 years? We've got to eradicate that legacy. The new South Africa will be defined by the fact that that legacy is gone. You know that legacy, what it is. I was telling Professor Fahimi yesterday that once we had a foreign visitor who came. We met here in Cape Town. And there was a program there which was called Working for Water. It was to remove alien vegetation. Those foreign trees, alien trees which drink a lot of water, the gum trees and all that. So we went right up to the mountains to implement that program, Working for Water. And then drove down into Cape Town. And I was saying to him that I'm quite certain that even the foreign guest that I was hosting was sitting with me in the car, could have told that this part of Cape Town, this is the white suburbs. You could tell as you are coming down, very clear, that these are the white suburbs, these are the colored areas, these are the African areas. It's very distinct. That legacy. As part of the legacy I'm saying we have to deal with. And that legacy will remain, I'm talking about this spatial thing, space. It's right across the country. We have not removed the legacy of colonialism and apartheid in every respect. Progress has been made. This meeting here, Principal, that we meet as these schools in this way and interact with one another in this way is a giant step forward to get rid of that legacy. This is major, major progress. I'm saying that's a challenge. Poor, there's a lot of poverty in the country. A lot of poverty. But that poverty has got a color. It's black and white. There's a lot of unemployment in the country. That employment has got color. It's black and white. And the reason for all of those things, we have not dealt with eradicating this legacy. Once I was going to visit Europe, one European country, and I knew they were very militant about levels of crime. In South Africa, the Europeans. Because they are misrepresenting the incidence of crime in the country. So I took the crime statistics from the South African Police Service, looked at Johannesburg, and one of the police areas is Rosebank. And you looked at the crime statistics at Rosebank compared to the crime statistics in Alexander Township. It's two different worlds altogether. There were no murders in Rosebank. There were murders in Alex. I'm saying even the types of crime, you can tell. Even the days of the crimes. If you said to me, tell me the crime picture of Cape Town during the week, I can tell you that from Friday to Monday, in this area, you'll get this type of crime. It's because we have not dealt with the eradication of this legacy of colonialism and apartheid. And as Professor Fahimi was saying, that becomes your responsibility. I'm sure our generation did what it could. But the fact of the matter that we have not quite succeeded. It has to be your responsibility, this generation, to say the task to eliminate the legacy of colonialism and apartheid remains, and we must deal with it. In principle, part of what it requires is that we must think, not believe everything that is written in the newspapers. The fact that it's written has got a big headline does not mean necessarily that it's true. It's true. You've got to think, you see, you've got this, your principals and teachers here and so on. Part of what they are trying to do is to teach you to inquire that and the other. We'll talk about the matter about undocumented, whoever, foreigners. How many are they? There's a problem. There are South Africans who say, who go marching up and down the streets against these undocumented people. How many are they? Nobody knows. By definition, once you say undocumented, it means nobody ever counted them. So why do you know? You don't know how many this thing is, but you say it's a problem. What kind of thinking is that? No South African knows how. What if you can't challenge that figure because you don't know? There was, I was told, I didn't see this, just now in these recent weeks, days, people in Durban, so-called undocumented, who went into some church building, like Konya or something, 300, 400. They are running away because we are chasing them because they are undocumented. So in the end, the police come and Home Affairs come, they count. Out of the 300, 400, there's only one was undocumented, one. One of the African countries, again, another story I'm told, part of what is reported is that there is a group of Africans from some African countries who are under attack, and the government, their government sends a plane to come and fetch them. And who turns up at the airport? One. We are saying there's a problem of undocumented people. How many are they? What makes you say they are the problem? There's a problem of unemployment that's raised. Are these undocumented people? These are the ones who are taking our jobs. If I say to these people, take me to this place with these undocumented people who've taken your job, they can't. They don't know who they are. They don't know where they are. But somebody's got it into our heads that there's these undocumented people. I sat in government a principal for what? In the presidency for 14 years. One of the principal challenges we had to deal with was this problem of unemployment. What are we going to do about this thing? Battled at it. There was never a single day when we ever said the reason was not moving, if we're not moving. We did not have any such fact. There's a story that we tell, which is, fortunately, the principal is told by white professors. So it's not me talking about ourselves. The white professors are saying, if you look at South Africa from 1994 to around up and up and up and up. By the time you get to 2007, thereabouts, the South African economy is growing at 6% every year. Between 1994, when we voted, there are 8 million people employed in the formal economy. 8 million. By 1998, it's 14 million. 6 million new jobs were added during the other day. I was saying, some African fellow, this was the years of jobless growth. 8 million jobs were added, but he claimed it was jobless because he's not thinking. I'm saying your white professors, they give you all the figures. And they say even these institutions we're talking about, Constitutional Court and the Human Rights Court, the Gender Commission, this one, they come from the same period. Your laws, your regulations, your this. South Africa was on the up and up and up and up. The story that is, as South Africans, we failed to deal with ourselves is not true. Then, around 2009, things changed. Went exactly the opposite direction. So a question arises. Why that change? It was all of a sudden, almost overnight. The South Africans were creating new jobs, and these rates of unemployment were going down, and levels of poverty were going down. That's when we introduced these grants, social grants and so on, because we were generating the money. Principal, the white professors, they say, 2004, since 1910, it was that government which produced a budget surplus so that we had money, have the money to pay the poor people. Then suddenly it changed. It went the other direction. Why? What changed? It was the same government, the same people. I'm saying to the students here, we must think and read to understand that. What is this thing that changed? And the reason there was that change, that sudden jump, is because there were other South Africans who did not like the success that was happening. They didn't like it. And decided we must bring it down. And succeeded. The problems we're having today were manufactured. Professor Fayemi here, you have said you are technologically savvy. I believe him. I think he was telling the truth. So I'm going to give you a challenge. You will find on the internet two reports. The Judicial Commission of Inquiry was chaired by retired Judge Robert Nugent. President Ramaphosa appointed that commission beginning of 2018. To inquire into what was happening to the South African Revenue Service. So Judge Nugent prepared an interim report and a final report. Both of them are on the internet. You should read them. The reason the Nugent Commission of Inquiry into the South African Revenue Service was appointed was because of what I'm talking about. The South African Revenue Service, the students may not remember this, they were too young, but the principals and the teachers will remember it. That for a number of years, the South African Revenue Service was overperforming. At the beginning of the year, they would say, we are going to collect R1 billion, and would say, Viva SARS. End of the financial year, they say, we've collected $1.25 billion. For a number of years, the SARS was overperforming in terms of collection of revenue. Until around 2014, when the opposite started happening. SARS started under-collecting. That is why President Ramaphosa appointed that Judicial Commission of Inquiry to say, can you please answer this question? This SARS, which was performing so well, all of a sudden is underperforming. What's the problem? And what I'm summarizing the conclusion by Judge Nugent. Judge Nugent says, there were people who wanted South Africa to fail. SARS collects 95% or something like that of state revenues. The people who worked to destroy SARS did not steal a single cent. They destroyed it. They tried to destroy the institution. What is the outcome of that? If you destroy civil servants or the police or the army or anything, the country is broke. And that report said, so that this democratic state fails. I'm saying SARS was over-collecting, SARS started under-collecting. The economy was going this way, suddenly the economy went the other way, to this day. That's your task, to look at what has happened to this country. So the explanations were given that no, the reason we're not getting jobs is because of unregistered, undocumented fraud. It's not true. There's no such thing. I'm saying even the people who make the claim, they can't tell you how many of these undocumented people are, because by definition, you don't know how many there are. So whether it's 1 or 20 or 50, that's a problem. It can't be true. But I'm saying practically from the work we did, we actually know what happened. So to respond to this xenophobic thing, let's tell the truth about ourselves to ourselves and not continue to manufacture fairy tales. When we have failed, we must say we have failed and not go and blame somebody else. We are staying at a hotel here in Cape Town. We've been staying there now for what, 2 nights, 3 nights? They are the waiters. Because one of the standard examples that is given of undocumented foreigners, they are all in the restaurants. They've taken our jobs. There's not a single foreigner in that restaurant. They're all South African, from beginning to end. There's not a single foreigner. But this part of the allegation is that, look at the restaurants in South Africa. They are occupied by these undocumented people. It's like I walked into a restaurant, they say, waiter, give me your document so I can see whether you are documented or not. In the end, I'm saying, colleagues, what Professor Fayemi is saying is correct. Something was done to eradicate that legacy of colonial way. Is progress. This thing is new. It's a result of 94. Very positive, very correct. But there's a lot that remains to be done. And the people who must do it is yourselves. And in order to do it, you must think. Don't say, I believe. Okay, so or say that on Sunday when you go to church or Friday at mosque. You can say, I believe that, that's fine. But once you've gone there, you don't believe, think. And say, how do we solve this problem? That becomes your responsibility. And we are both of us very confident that you will live up to that responsibility. But principal and principals, let me say thanks a lot for having us. We are sorry to disturb your classes. I want to say thanks a lot to Professor Fayemi here for taking on this responsibility to answer so many questions. But principal, thanks a lot to yourself, to the other principals, and to the students. If you want us to come again, because you are very important people, our future is in your hands. But thanks a lot. It's in your hands. But thanks a lot.
I will just say something after you.
Good morning, everyone. President Thabo Mbeki, Dr. Fayemi, and his distinguished guests. My name is Nzala Mativa, and on behalf of Milnerton, I would like to say the vote of thanks. Firstly, I would love to thank President Thabo Mbeki and Dr. Fayemi for gracing us with your presence today. It was our utmost gratitude to welcome you today. And I would like to sing this Africa Day that we all come here to celebrate. And may we all leave today with the words and the wisdom that you...
Before I hand over to Mr. Kasim for final arrangements, first of all, just from my side also, President and Professor, thank you for sharing your wisdom. But a huge thank you to all the schools and learners out there sharing your questions. And I truly believe, and as President and Professor was saying, we truly believe in you. Let's go out there. Let's challenge everything. Let's think, like the President was saying. Don't believe everything. But we need to be united. We need to challenge these difficult situations out there. And as President Thabo Mbeki has said, I am an African. So I think, let everybody stand up and say, I am an African. Congratulations.